The value is conversation. The topic that we are discussing here, it's very important to open it up for conversation. I believe that's the way forward. I know few people may have different opinions about migration and migrants, and that is perfectly okay. But we need to open it up, have a conversation, not so much to try and convince everyone, but we hear different points, different viewpoints, and come to a common way forward. So before I continue, I really want to acknowledge the first people, the traditional owners of this land. We believe that until the issues surrounding the Aborigines are sorted out sustainably, a few other minorities may struggle. And that is why we do not take this part of any event we do lightly. So truly and sincerely, we acknowledge the traditional owners. We respect their younger and elder ones, past, present, and emerging. We do appreciate them giving space for others to come and join in the blessings of Australia. So today it's really all around the book, a handbook for migrants. And this session, it's meant to bring out a few points. I cannot talk about a book fully in 1 hour, but I just want to bring out a few points on which we can have a conversation. It's a book that involves the good, the challenges, and the lessons. It's a perspective from my experience. So I do make it clear, and I'm sure I did enough justice to that, to try and warn against being too general. But at the same time, I believe principles are transferable. I believe lessons can be shared. And I believe there are always takeaways from other people's experiences. So it's not a perfect book for everything, but I've shared from my heart because I believe that other people should not have to reinvent the wheel. One of the major areas about the good part of it, because many times I hear people complain, even migrants, about Australia. Yes, it's not a perfect place. There's no perfect place under the sun. But I always try to remind us that there are the good parts of this country, especially when you've come over. And that is why I started the book about the why. It's very important to settle the why you've come over. Even if you spend years here, it's not too late. Why did I migrate? Because I believe in settling that it will help you in the journey all the way. So for me, one of the two reasons I came up with, after looking at all the options, I was able to crystallize it into two main parts. The first one was I was looking for more opportunities for career. I was a lecturer, very promising career, but I realized that I needed more. In the country where I was born, Nigeria, yes, there are a lot of opportunities, but I felt there were a lot of constraints to grow. So I was told about the Australian Skill Migration Scheme. I didn't know about it, I didn't go looking for it, but I have a cousin in Sydney who shared the information. And I applied, and I was successful. But I didn't rush into it because it was not enough for career. The other factor for me was family. An environment where you can raise a family that will be a robust experience. Yes, again, comparing to where I'm coming from, did Nigeria not have it? We did. But there were not a few aspects of concerns that made us, then myself and my wife, to decide we're going to take our chance. And it's a big decision to leave all you know. You're literally uprooting yourself out of your roots and going on an expedition. So and when I came in, I saw that those benefits were there. So they are the good part. I'll share at least two that I wrote in the book. One of them is the utilities in Australia, the infrastructure. The fact that you come out in the morning, you have an organization where you have it. This may sound mundane to a few people, but it was an interesting thing for me. You have a system where you have two bins. One is for disposable and one is for other things, recyclable and the other not. All you just need to do is bring out your rubbish, put it in the bin, and you don't have to bother what happens to it from there. It was very fascinating to me when I came in first. Now, it may sound small experience for a few people, but for me, the level of organization, the level of certainty, the level of infrastructural design, the roads, the medical facilities. I think Australia has one of the best. I know some countries will say they are better somewhere, but I have seen the best. I recall when I broke my femur doing soccer. I didn't know why I was playing soccer at 50, but I broke my femur. And I could just, if I transported myself to, if that has happened in another setting, I may have lost my leg. But the level of response, the fact that the ambulance can be there within 10 minutes or less, and when you get to the hospital, the level of system in place. And that is why I have a friend who is a medical doctor that said, this will be funny to some people, said, it's difficult to die in Australia. He said, I think you were at that occasion, he said, if you can get to emergency, you even if you want to die, you may be prevented from dying. I mean, coming to a country like this, why would I not first of all celebrate the good? Why would I not first of all, be a trumpeter of the good before I focus on that small part, which are the challenges, and they are there. So for me, one of the key challenges I face, remember I said one of my whys was career progression, with a lot of dreams. But when we landed, the reality was clear. It was difficult than I thought. Being a true master's degree holder, very promising career person, and coming and being faced with the reality, and I put that in the book, when I was given a form to go train as a security agent. I'm not putting down being a security person, but it was hard. Because a week ago I just resigned from an appointment, believing that it's just easier to get another one after a little while, but it was difficult. I came into a group where it was a norm to be a chartered accountant in your previous country and become a cleaner in 2 weeks. To be a professor in your previous country and become a cab driver. Now again, I'm not saying these professions are bad. But if that is not what your aspirations are, it hits you while you are doing that. And this is what a lot of migrants go through. They are doing them to survive, but they are struggling. A few have coped better, have adjusted to the reality, but quite a few are still struggling. So that was one of my challenges. And it may be different for different people. The other one, which I will just briefly mention, because like I said, I would like to spend more time conversing. The other one was the issue of family. Again, I always make, and it may sound provocative, a statement. Migration has its cost. For anybody for that matter, even if you live here as an Australian, migrate, so I've had to work in the Middle East as Australian. Of course, I advise in the book, if you are going to the Middle East, please go as an Australian rather than going as a Nigerian. Because once you learn where you are from, differentiates you to the Middle East. So there's a cost when you leave where you are to start afresh. So we just need to face that fact. It's a cost. So one of the challenges I see, it's really family. And I'm speaking from experience. Particularly when you've come from a culture that has a particular family structure. And you've come into another culture that is quite egalitarian. It's causing a lot of trauma in migrant families. And this is where I have my concern about money, how money is being thrown into the issue of domestic violence. Yes, we need to voice it out, we need to talk about it. But I wish we could look at the root causes, especially for migrant families. But I was very vocal in the book to say that however logical your reason for being violent, please don't do it. Because every culture must obey the law. You can't hide on that culture to infringe on the law. You go to jail. And unfortunately, that is one other thing I'm really seeing as a challenge. Because I'll give you an illustration. Many times when we come in here, we come in with the mind that, I'll give an example of Nigeria. The Nigerian family structure is more or less, there is a structure of parents. When parents are leading, children are supposed to listen. Respect is big. A Nigerian man is feel really undermined if he's disrespected. Should that lead him to be violent? Should that lead him to be disrespectful to women? Should that lead him to take matters into his hands? No. But that's just a reality. And you come into a country like this, you have to adjust. So that's one challenge, where children are being lost to the welfare system. I'm not going to apportion unnecessary blames because it's just happening. It's a challenge. And I think it will take a while for some of us to adjust. I tell a lot of my fellow men, I said, hey, guys, we have to adjust. We have to reinvent. We have to change our mindset. The way I was brought up I cannot bring up my son like that here. I'll give you a very raw example. In a traditional home of an African home, let me be more general, not just Nigerian, when a child sees the father in the morning, he or she is expected to say good morning, the least. Some of them will even expect you not just to say good morning, so just from the back, because I've not announced yet if people are okay with it. Thank you. It's when, in some tradition, it's even expected, it's not just to say with the mouth, you have to say it with the body as well. There has to be something that makes you recognize that you are in the presence of a parent. I'll use myself as an example. My children don't have that. Sometimes when they come into where I am in the morning, many times I have to remind them, hey, I'm here. Unlike back home, you may be reminded in some other fashion. I don't want to go over how. So you can imagine that, and that is just the least. It's come to a point where children will call parents by name. Hey, in some culture, it's a no-no. In Australia, it's okay. So you can see how the conflict will just keep going on. And someone that does not know from the outside will just think, oh, the solution is that straightforward and simple, very, put some money to it, bring men and children together. And those will help, but we need to first of all understand the cultures. But can I emphasize again, irrespective of this culture, we have to obey the law. If you are not careful, the children you are trying to protect, you will lose them. So a lot of parents are beginning to adjust. So those are some of the two challenges. And the lessons are I already mentioned a few of the lessons. The lessons are all about, number one, with career, there are some of them in that book. We have to do something. Volunteering. I think looking at the audience here, there's no need to go into the details about career. But some example I gave in the book, to solve the issue of communication, I have to join Toastmasters. I have to keep communicating. I have to get out of my comfort zone. To add a bit of solution to the issue of qualification, like I told you, I came in here with 2 masters. I have to put them aside for a while. My first job I got by doing a technician training, and that's how I got my break. But while on the job, the reflection of my career, my 2 masters, came to bear while on the job. The issue of networking, there's no easy way. You just have to go out there and network. And sometimes people of migrant background do not network naturally. It's a difficult thing for us to do. When we go to the room like this, I'm more likely going to gravitate towards Gabriel. What I mentioned in the book over and over again, we need to get out of our comfort zone. There is no easier way out. You have to go out and talk to strangers. And the good thing, we also have some locals that are very open, wanting to talk to you, wanting to communicate and help. But if you don't let people know what you want, they won't know what you want. Local experience is a big killer. It's a chicken and egg situation. You need local experience to get a job. How do you get local experience without a job? So I also said a bit about that. Again, from experience, I started with volunteering. then got into what I wanted to do. And it's not still been easy. Once you're in a job, the cultural conflicts still play up sometimes. So you have to set a few hints on how to address those. So those are some of the, with family situation, it's a very current issue. It's something that we are dealing with. There's no easy solution. Many of us, and I'm a big crusader of my community, we need to change. Otherwise, please take up your bag and go back home. Because otherwise, you will get to jail. Many times we believe before we say 2, 3, we've already hit. But I'm happy that I can report that I've seen a change in attitude. Because people know the risk. But how do we also address the other side of the story? How do we bridge the gap? But there's a gap there. People cannot stop their culture overnight. Remember in Australia, there used to be the whole thing about assimilation. Thankfully, that is not being used often again. And now there is integration. Some people still have an issue with that. I've seen recently inclusion. And my understanding of inclusion is that both sides have to move with it. Because people cannot drop who they are. And that really drove my second book, which is Voices from Home, Our Roots. But that is one of the other challenges. A lot of people of our background are crying that they are losing their roots. When you start getting to the second and third generation, everything is being lost. And some families, that children are no longer keen to carry the name of family, because for us, name is very important. My name was Osaghae. As difficult as it is, it's hard for me to drop. We've had people in career that have had to change names. And some of them is really, really not too easy. So I also share with people, if you have to do it, find a way to do it. Because if you have to survive, people have to be comfortable in pronouncing your name. So how do you bring all these, whether somehow it's the reality of the game. I'm not a big fan of blaming anybody too quickly, because it's not just nobody's fault. Maybe this is one of the challenges of multiculturalism. I know that's another big word, but it is what it is. So we recognize this as an organization I also lead called Migrants Professional Bridge, and we started an initiative called LIFE, Leadership, Emotion and Experience, for youth 12 to 18, because we've realized that some of these challenges I mentioned, it's also happening with our youth. The youth are beginning to have that same friction, that same distance, that same gap. Many of us here will remember the whole episode of Sudan, the Sudanese in Melbourne. Big story. To the extent that we have the minister that should be in charge of uniting people, there's some statement that I didn't quite agree with. Because interesting is that most of those Sudanese youth, do you know that they are Australians? By definition of migration, which I started with my book, because sometimes, who is a migrant? Who is a migrant? And many times you hear many perspectives, who really is a migrant? One time the definition was anybody that is not born in Australia is a migrant. And then we start talking about SOL, speakers of other language, because I perceive that some people didn't quite like to identify as migrants. And from speakers of other language, the one that is very common is called culturally and linguistically diverse people. Sorry to twin my thoughts there. And that is, people are really struggling to find a definition of a migrant. So the Sudanese so-called African youth, they are really, by definition of migrants, they are Australians. They are born here. But many times, this youth, they have already disconnected with their roots. Because the tension I explained earlier on is very difficult for our children. That's why I'm trying to be good to step back, not to be hard on children. They did not beg to be born into that situation. And we have to make it easier for them. This is all they know. So we cannot expect them to know the things we know, to think the way we think, to act the way we act. But at the same time, we cannot just let our posterity just go. Just vanish into thin air. And that's what is happening with a lot of families. It just vanishes over time. That identity of who we are over time just goes away. And a lot of people are struggling with that. So when they begin to grow up as migrant youth, they have conflict at home. Many of them will want to distance from their roots. And again, it's not easy to blame them. They don't want to be identified with who they are. And this is why I think there's a lot of identity crisis, because who you are is who you are. So we need to help them in that space. Who you are is who you are. When you come in here, you'll be different. Hey, reconcile with it. Celebrate it. Get the good part. Yes, if you don't celebrate it, someone will tell you and want to identify or define who you are. And that's what happens with a lot of people. They get confused. So with this particular case, they're growing up, many of them are in friction with home, and they begin to distance themselves. And they want to identify more with the locals. But unfortunately, many of them are not also accepted here. So they are caught in the middle. And out of that, what I put it now, out of that thing that has stayed over a while, if they have opportunity, they want to express their anger. I'm not a psychologist, but this is just my theory. So with the Sudanese situation, it's just a case where they came to a point where they were upset. They are angry. They're not at home accepted. Outside there, they're not accepted. What do? They vent. I am not excusing violence, but I believe the need to always address root causes, the need to go back and find out how to sort the situation sustainably. It's not enough to come on air, particularly as a minister of a country. Such statement can actually cause more divide, I believe. But at the same time, as a government, they have to act. They can't just allow people to be on the street causing carnage. So again, it comes back to balance. So at the end of the day, I think, so with this initiative, we are trying to create a platform where our youth from different backgrounds can begin to express their talent. We started in 2017, 12 to 18. So far we've had 25 of them going through the program. And they are really, really doing great stuff. The last episode, they actually had a think tank project, and where they addressed a lot of topical issues concerning youth, social media, mental health, multiculturalism. What does it mean to them? How can they add to the narrative? How can they address the perception out there in a very positive way? Rather than ending up with the Sudanese in Melbourne situation, let's do some proactive work. And they have really done good stuff. The think tank ended up with a book. So one of the books there, which has really fallen down, is a book they came up with where they crystallize a few thoughts and they believe that other migrants coming in can learn from it. Because when people come in migration, government has a lot of programs for adults. But sometimes the youth are not catered for. It's not enough to throw incentives and centrally or study or the money we give out, which sometimes could even be more problematic. But we need to fill the gap for them. We need to give them a good story. And that's one of the things this book has done. So good to have three of them in our midst here. I know King David actually led that group. Samuel just came in, was involved. And one of them that we really want to just a few minutes to talk about their experience, because it's better to hear from the mouth of youth themselves, is Nietzsche. I'll give you a bit of example of what has happened since then. King David has presented in an international conference after this program and is now being sought after as a speaker. He's still in school, he's just gone to TAFE, but he's doing great stuff. And it's not only Lime that did it, but he contributed a bit. Nietzsche has become a friend of a couple of mayors. They just like his story. So the last time during the City of God's in August or in July, Nietzsche was their special guest. And he delivered a speech on multiculturalism. I was in that audience, but I can tell you after the event, more people were going to Nietzsche for autograph than myself. So I think it's good to celebrate our youth. It's good to give them a platform to express themselves. And I believe the youth are the hope of multiculturalism. Because I think multiculturalism is under threat. So I'd like to just quickly, briefly invite Nietzsche just to share a little bit of his experience from the Lime Project. Not so much to sell, but to let you know what's been done today. Please make him feel welcome, Nietzsche.
So I'm here today, and I want to share a brief experience of my Lime anecdotes. So at first, when I joined into Lime, I was fairly new, and a friend of mine from Singapore, his name is Solomon, he introduced me to the Lime program in hopes that I'd be there, have fun, meet new African friends that Mr. Ephraim had organized as a group. So at first, I was there. We had this thing called Gavel, which was a public speaking program that we all enjoyed doing. That was cool. Second, after return, we decided that we needed to do something a little bit more, something that appeals to our life outside of school as well as our lives in school. So what did we do? Well, once again, Mr. Ephraim, he organized a series of events. Have you all heard of the show Shark Tank? Yeah, so we organized something called Lime Tank, which is pretty much a rip-off version of Shark Tank, except the ideas were powered by the mind of our youths. So I did it, a lot of other people did it, King David did it, Osaghae did it. It was really empowering the imagination and our use of finances and ideas into a product. Thirdly, which was arguably the most important aspect of Lime, is our idea to create this book. Handbook for Migrant Youth, peer-to-peer wisdom from those who've been there and done that. It's a book written by our entire group. After the Gavel Club for public speaking and the Shark Tank, Lime Tank sessions, we decided that we need to go one step further to raise awareness for other youths in our communities to raise awareness for multiple aspects in what is most crucial to other migrant youths that may come to Australia. So this process was a pretty long process. We had a new room and everything. It was a fresh start. At first, we had a lot of ideas. At the end, we had to refine it into just a couple of ideas. We had multiculturalism, we had the educational system and job opportunities in Australia. We had mental health and areas in technology. Now, these areas, they appeal to the youth. And you may be thinking, oh, it's a book. And for youth, people these days, especially youth, don't really read books, right? Well, see, on the internet, you can't really find a lot of good things. You need experiences for you to step into the shoes of people who are already here, people like me, to know what it is like being in a foreign country, having a different skin color, speaking multiple languages. So this book, it really was an engaging experience for youth. Now I'd like to address the fact, like my chapter in the book, multiculturalism. I think it is very crucial to have it in our community, especially in Australia. As Mr. Ephraim has said before, multiculturalism has its multiple positives and negatives, benefactors. As he released his two books, and how the group Live has released our book, it's about stepping out of our comfort zone and to be talking to other people. And for you all to be here, I'm assuming that most of you here are immigrants or migrants. It's a very tough challenge, yeah. So it's really important to acknowledge the hard work that's gone into this. And by writing this book, I think as youths, we have done our part to spread the message that multiculturalism, immigration, stuff about communication is very crucial to our modern society. Thank you.
Yeah, so yes, you're right. They grown up here. The typical wider Australian culture do not believe that when you wake up in the morning, you have to say good morning. If you say hello, it's good enough. But again, you have a little bit of other culture that believe children, for example, we're not talking about other people's children, but at least your own, should, when they come into, they leave their room in the morning, they come out, hopefully they slept well. So you have to also understand in case they didn't sleep well, maybe the other reason why they are a bit grumpy. But if they come into the living room where the parents are already awake, for a child to just walk past, it's not okay. I don't know whether there are a few points here.
I'm wondering if that's generational, because I think I would have taken my kids out the back and shot them if they didn't say good morning to me or hello when they came home. So I'm just wondering if that's generational. I don't know if anyone else there. Would your kids say hello to you in the morning when they walk through the kitchen?
Yes, Amy, what do you think? What do you think? You're laughing. I'll be chance to feel a good boy.
In China, it is a very common tradition to be very respectful to your parents. But things are very different here.
I'm not seeing it as a matter of respect. I'm seeing it as a matter of just being socially the appropriate thing to do, not to walk into a room and say nothing. It's just acknowledging their presence.
You've got to teach your children values from being very young. You expect them to continue that when they're teenagers.
Yeah. And I think the point that's coming out here, and I appreciate you bringing that up, that it's not good to quickly blame the country. It could just be the general change in terrain and the times we're in. And yeah, first time hearing that nature now that yeah, things are a bit different.
It has to do with the environment. In fact, in my place of work, I remember many times after challenge people, people will call me, some will say good morning, good morning, good morning. People will not even answer. In my culture, it's like it's a taboo. You know, when you get to a place, you need to break it. But here, people don't. It is not of any importance.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you brought, even though we're talking about the children, parents situation, but you even brought it up, even colleagues at work. And I think it also has something to do with the fact that Australian is very individualistic compared to some culture that are very collective. Collectivism and individualism. In Australia, there's a belief about space. Even with children now, they have that ideology. This is my space. How I do inside this space is not up to you, mom and dad. And that's a challenge for some culture, big challenge. And it's interesting to hear that even with other culture within, it's also an issue where a child to just walk past you and not say hello, not say anything, just walk past. You know, how many times I had to. You could either go and get upset and then go and do something you regret, or you start accepting, and this is one of the lessons I also highlighted in particularly my second book. I said, you could either come back and start realizing, looking at the big picture, why is this child doing this? Because many people have acted on impulse and have to regret it for life. What do you think? Sorry, I know that.
Oh, I was thinking about, well, for me, I was born in the States, and my father was from Kenya, and my mom's from the States. And then I come over here, and my husband's Australian, and from background. And each generation, like you said, you can see, just like what are the, I think what you asked about is it the being here, or is it being among your friends, or what is it that they're not having the same upbringing? But I think part of it is like the kids can always go, well, that doesn't really apply to my life. I can't really do it that way. Or they might not. The whole thing about like for my family, my father's family, if people come into a room, they have to like shake hands with every person in the room and say hello, like to the child, to the adult in the room, and that's what I was taught when I was a kid, but I didn't really teach that to my kids, and like I don't even know if my youngest probably doesn't even really know that, that you should walk into a room and then you should shake hands with everyone like individually. So yeah, it's not really necessarily that it's the culture that they're living in or the schools or whatever, but they might also not have all the family time.
Yeah, it's individual family.
So they haven't seen it done all the time as well, Yeah, so, I mean, some migrant communities are lucky because they join, and, you can do that and you can have that. And I had that when I was in the States. A lot of my cousins were there, and a lot of their friends were all from the same place. And so, I could see what it was. But, like, for my kids here, they don't have that because they don't have one from around.
Ephraim, I'm really interested to know, with children again, in terms of whether they're born overseas and come here, or if they're born here with, in a multicultural family, are their needs different, or are their needs the same?
Yeah, and that's another good dimension you brought in there because it's a bit different. And I'll tell you, for example, King David was born overseas and came here white. How old were you when you came in?
8.5.
8.5.
So you would have some memories.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's quite different. Even among in our community, the way he will see things is different from, like I have a 16-year-old son who was born here. He sees things so differently compared to David. But he has had 8 years or thereabout of that culture compared to, so it's another, there's a difference there. The needs are different, the experiences are different, the attitude toward culture is different.